The final item of business today is a members' business debate on motion number 3317 in the name of Clare Adamson on the Scottish Steelworkers Memorial Fund. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put. And would those members who wish to speak in the debate please press the request to speak buttons as soon as possible, arrange their microphones and put in their cards. And I now call on Clare Adamson to speak. 7 minutes, please, Clare.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As a Lanarkshire lass born in Motherwell, this motion is very close to my heart. My grandfather worked in Colville's, and many of my close family and friends have connections with the steel industry. So I give great thanks to those from across the Chamber who have supported this motion and given an opportunity for this Parliament to recognise the centuries of history of Scottish steel making that contributed so much, literally in blood, sweat and tears, to the building of industrial Scotland. But also in this debate, we recognise those brave workers, injured and maimed, and those who sadly lost their lives in what was a dangerous and physically demanding role. I would commend the work of the Scottish Steelworkers Memorial Fund in their aim to construct and install a Steelworkers Memorial on the Ravenscraig site. There has been a great deal of interest in the debate, and I know in the gallery we have Terry Curry, the Chair of the Memorial Fund, Tommy Brennan, the Secretary of the Memorial Fund, and also John Scott, a Trustee of the Memorial Fund. And I know that Mr Scott has a very personal reason for his commitment to the Memorial Fund, as his uncle tragically lost his life while working in Ravenscraig. Also here to witness the debate are members of the trade union movement across Scotland who support this campaign. Jim Baxter and Hugh Gaffney from North Lanarkshire's Trade Union Council, and also Stephen Boyd, Assistant Secretary of the STUC. And we also have steelworkers interested, Jim Fraser and Steve Jeffrey, who marked the 20th anniversary of the plant's closure with a reunion of former ironworks, engineering and production staff. And also Pat Donnelly from the Community Union, who have generously donated £20,000 to the Steelworkers Memorial Fund, on condition that materials are sourced in Britain and manufactured in Scotland. I'll leave the procurement to the side for the moment. It's hard to try and encapsulate the influence steelmaking had on my life and my family's life. Steel is so ingrained in our psyche that our nickname of Motherwell Football Club is the Steelmen. And just last evening, I attended an award ceremony at St Aidan's High School, where, like so many Lanarkshire schools, the award for academic excellence is the David Colville Ducks Medal. DL Steel and Ironworks in Motherwell was founded by David Colville in 1871. It was nationalised in 1976 and is now operated by Tata Steel. Ravenscraig dominated my childhood skyline. Often it had a not too pleasant effect on the olfactory system, and I can still remember the noise and the night sky as it was illuminated like fire as the slag was released from the furnaces. But the sensory effects I remember from my childhood are nothing to the hardship endured by the workers. In Robert Duncan's History of Steelmaking Industry, Sons of the Vulcan, he states that the making of molten steel in open hearth furnaces depended on hard manual labour, dexterity and considerable powers of both mental and physical endurance. Presiding Officer, workers were exposed to extreme levels of heat and often exposed to noxious and toxic fumes. One can only imagine the stamina required by the workers, such as those tasked with hand stripping and clearing the slag from the chamber beneath the furnaces, in cramped and hazardous conditions with only hammers to assist. And this was only one of the many dangerous jobs undertaken by steelworkers and contractors. Stresses, strains, injuries, occasional fatal accidents and constant danger were obvious features of steelmaking in this period. And of course, like so many of our industries associated with the Industrial Revolution, the labour force was its least valued asset, and so no records exist that quantify the level of injury and death in the industry. Robert Duncan also references the Royal Commission on Labour from 1892, in which John Hodge, the leader of the Steel Melters Union in Scotland, stated that while fatal accidents were few and unusual, there were very many small accidents, men losing a toe or a finger or getting burned. The truth is, we will never know the full extent of fatalities and accidents over the centuries, but anecdotally I know that there is barely a family in a steelmaking community who has not been touched by tragedy associated with our industrial heritage. Yes, certainly.
Elaine Smith.
Presiding Officer, I thank the member for taking the intervention, commend her on her excellent motion, and on the point that she just made, I wondered if she would agree with me that Gartcosh Steelworks in my own constituency was also an important contributor to Scotland's steel industry until it was viciously closed in 1986 by Margaret Thatcher, throwing hundreds of steel workers onto the scrap heap and devastating the whole community.
Clare Adamson.
Couldn't agree with the member more, and it was actually the sacrifice of Ravenscraig and Scottish steel industry that brought me today here, as it set me on a road in politics. Scotland's steel industry is still very important today. Valoric Mannesmann plant in Moss End, as well as the Tata Steel, DL and Clydebridge plants, are important to Scottish industry. Anne Glover, the European Commission's first ever Chief Scientific Advisor, was singing the praises of the Scottish steel industry in this building last week when describing our steel's use in the European transonic wind tunnel. This uses liquid nitrogen to freeze the chamber to sub-zero temperatures, and in doing so uses half the power grid of the city of Cologne. It required the highest quality of steel, and that was delivered from Scotland. Presiding Officer, we have a strong tradition in Lanarkshire of recognising the sacrifices made by workers and their families in building this nation. I count my colleague Elaine Smith as one of the many inspiring speakers who I've listened to at Workers' Memorial Day, as it is remembered at Summerlee Heritage Museum. We show solidarity with workers from around the world who have lost their lives, been injured. We highlight the preventable nature of most workplace accidents and the associated ill health of the industrial revolution. We seek to promote campaigns and union organisations in their fight to improve the workplace safety. And earlier this summer, I also witnessed, during the Festival of Politics, a discussion about the Great Tapestry of Scotland, which will depict our history as a nation from Neolithic times. And the discussion about who should appear in the tapestry was quickly overshadowed by what? The crofters, the jute workers, rent strikers, miners, shipbuilders and of course the steelworkers was considered as important as the individual heroes such as Adam Maxwell Wallace or Lanarkshire's own David Livingstone. So I thank the members again for my opportunity to bring this very important to me, this motion today, and I commend it to the Parliament.
Many